Okay, and right here on the phone lines today, we've got the president of the WCRA, Mr. Bobby Mote. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing good, Pepper. How you doing?
Oh, doing great. Another one of those long weekends, getting back into the grind of things again on a Monday. I imagine it's busy where you're at as well.
Yeah, it seems every day is, but it's good. It's good. I enjoy it.
Well, let's jump into some WCRA. Let's kick this off here. You know, y'all just launched, the WCRA launched back in 2018. It's already paid out over $7 million in prize money. So how's that work?
Yeah, so it'll be 2 years since we announced and launched and opened up the WRCA. We paid out $7.5 million. Interesting, I was pulling up some reports. 589 people who we've written a check to so far over this few years. And so, you know, a really interesting fact is, of those 589 people who have won money with the WCRA, 50 of them have won over $50,000, and 10 of them have won over $100,000. And so, you know, if you compare that to a regular, you know, world standings or something, I think that would be less impressive because, you know, when you look at a world standings of most, you know, in most cases, that's a reflection of gone to, you know, a decent number of rodeos. And so every rodeo you go to, you know, you've got a lot of costs associated with it. You know, we're talking about like something like 8 rodeos, and the cost of entry for these is, you know, hundreds, you know, in nomination fees, not thousands and thousands of travel expenses, you know. So the whole thing is trying to make rodeo more sustainable. And we're not, you know, our objective isn't to take the place of any world championships or any of those titles, but it's to try to make it more sustainable, get more people doing it, and, you know, make it better for its athletes while putting on a great show and having a great product to, you know, put out, you know, in media. So, you know, and I feel like so far we've been doing a good job of hitting all those objectives.
Yeah, and I mean it's working out. The athletes that I've talked to, you know, they compete. You know, they're enjoying it. They're having a good time, and they really enjoy the format. And of course, they like the payouts as well. So, you know, it's working out.
Yes, sir. Yeah, with the money we paid, it would have been, you know, kind of typical in the rodeo industry is to top load things, and you can boast a huge first place payout, and then past, you know, the first couple spots, nobody's really making any money, and that's, you know, that's where the 589 checks we've paid out comes into play. Is that, you know, it's spread around quite a bit. It does pay really good to win first, but it's spread out so that, you know, if you go and you do your job well, that you're gonna leave with some money in your pocket. Another interesting fact that when I was pulling up some reports this morning that I just came across, I didn't even realize it, but we've crossed over the 10,000 registered users mark this week, actually, and have over 20,000 events in the database. And so, you know, if you'd have told me a year ago that there's 20,000 rodeo events that occur in a year, in mostly in North America, like I would have to argue with you that's a huge number. Right. But there are literally over that in our database, over 20,000. So, you know, it's just exciting to see. You know, I lived most of my rodeo career sort of oblivious to you know, what the potential and what's actually going on, you know, in reality, you know, in all the corners of the world of rodeo, there's a lot of it happening. There's a lot of people interested in it. I think that it's, you know, rodeo has caught a lot of momentum lately, and I think it's going to just continue to. I think we've just knowing the things that we have in the pipeline and things that are to come, paired with, you know, I think all of the increased media exposure that rodeo's gotten, I think what Cowboy Channel's doing is fantastic. You know, just letting people see rodeo every day is great. And, you know, fans will become more educated and learn more about who, you know, these athletes are And so that's all really, really good.
Now with the you recently, I guess back was last year, you announced the Triple Crown. How'd that come about?
So that's been a topic of discussion internally for a while now. But it's basically, we just decided let's put it out there and let's do it. Once we were able to forecast far enough in advance kind of what our schedule was looking like, that the next thing to do was to put this Triple Crown out there. And it's, last year we had a few people who had won 2 events in a row and had a chance to win 3 in a row, a bull rider, a bareback rider, and a team roper. And so it's totally attainable. I mean, here's really what it is you win 3 majors in a row. They don't have to all be in the same calendar year, but you win 3 majors in a row and you win $1 million. And so that it doesn't matter. When I say it doesn't matter if it's in the same calendar year, it doesn't. Every year we're set to pay out $1 million. And so a little bit, so the one caveat is a little bit alike what they do with the American. If you won 3 events in a row and then I won 3 events in a row in the same year, we would split the $1 million. But if I won the last event of this year and the first 2 events of next year, then I'm eligible for that $1 million. So it doesn't have to fall within the same calendar year. But if you can win 3 majors in a row, you win $1 million. That's not an annuity. That's not paid out. That's a $1 million check. And so that'll change lives. And I think that that's a substantial, and I think it's very attainable. I mean, the reality is somebody is 6 runs or rides away from $1 million, and that's really where it's at.
And talking about being life changing and changing lives. Now you recently added a youth division. Now, how did the youth division come about, and how does that work for the youth of the WCRA?
So we have big plans to help to build and continue to help develop rodeo. There's a lot of youth organizations out there, namely the National High School Rodeo Association, who have been around forever and have been, that's been their mission, is to make, youth rodeo have a developmental league. And we've joined forces with them to try to help build more incentive in youth rodeo, but I think that it's important that these kids sort of stay in their lane, so to speak, and don't leave the youth ranks and join the pro ranks too early. And so we've put some things in place, like if you're going to be eligible for the Division Y, which is what our youth program is called, then you're not eligible for Open. And there's greater point earning opportunities at National High School Rodeo Association events and our alliance partners than there is at just the average youth event. And so my hope is that kids stay in school, continue to pursue their educations, go through, the right levels of competition at the right times, and we can help pay some of that money back that those parents and those kids are spending to go rodeo. In most cases for awards, it costs. I mean, I know I've got some kids that do high school and junior rodeo and stuff, and so every time you load up that trailer and take off a week, there's a lot of costs associated with it. And so we set the nomination fees at $25, and we basically track the point outcome of these kids at these events, and we've guaranteed $50,000 to our first Division Y event in Guthrie this May. It's during the Stampede at the E, and so the top 24 in the leaderboard in Division Y, they'll go there and they'll compete twice. Like I said, we guaranteed $50,000 for that. And then the average winners from that 2-head competition will advance to the $1 million major on May 16th, and so they'll have an equal shot with all the pros to win, $50,000, and so and that'll be on national TV, that'll be on CBS network, and so I think it's a great opportunity, and it's just the iceberg. We're in conversations with our partners at High School Rodeo and with others to how we can make it much better next year. We started in, I think, what I would call a pretty conservative fashion this year, although $50,000 guaranteed payout is significant for youth. We've got bigger things in the pipeline.
Okay. Now, you've on CBS, you got the CBS broadcast, and those have had a couple of those go already. What kind of feedback and how has that worked out in the WCRA favor?
Well, I think it's just in rodeo's favor. So I mentioned the Cowboy Channel a minute ago, and I think that they're doing a good job of bringing cowboy to, rodeo to rural America. And so let's call it the fans that already know about rodeo or learn a lot more about rodeo, getting to see it every day. And I think that's fantastic. But yet there's still a need to try to grow it bigger than it's ever been. And mainstream media should take notice of what's going on over here with rodeo and these tremendous athletes and these wonderful stories that come out of rodeo. And so, that's all of our semifinals events are streamed live on Ride Pass, and they also air on Ride TV. And I think that's good. Everybody gets some exposure that way, and people can kind of get their rodeo fix through watching the semifinals. But then these majors are on, it's the only rodeo series on network television, meaning anybody with rabbit ears can get it. The Royal City Roundup at Kansas City last, just over a week ago, we had 80 million viewers that viewed the whole time, with a peak of 880 some thousand viewers that viewed the whole time, with 919,000 viewing it, at peak viewership. So, just short of 1 million people viewed that rodeo. And I think that's substantial, because those are sports bars. Those are, just city people that came in the afternoon and turned it on. And those are new people, basically, who were introduced to rodeo. And so I think that's great. It's a step in the right direction. We need more of it. Our partnership with the PBR allows us to do this and, air all of our majors on network television. I think that's fantastic, and that's something that hasn't been done before. So those numbers will continue to increase, and so we'll be able to continue to reach more people and tell more people about rodeo.
All right. And then speaking of the Kansas City event, recently, a little controversy going on at Kansas City, and I hear you've got some new policies, some new things in the works.
Yeah. So in rodeo, we were pioneering, to a degree, instant replay. I always thought while I was rodeoing that it was crazy not to have it, as many rodeos have camera, camera angles. I've just always believed that it should be the case. And so, we've had instant replay, and, keep in mind, there was no template for what we're doing. There wasn't a rule book that we adopted and tried to use for our own. We've been writing this from scratch. And so every time we have an event, there's a lot of things that work. There's a few things that either don't work or could be better. And so we get together and we meet and we go over it and review it and try to make those changes. And so at Kansas City, there was a missed call. Chet Johnson in the saddle bronc ride and slapped his horse on the right side, and it wasn't seen by the judges, and it was pretty clear on TV on the replay. And so we've modified our instant replay rules to where any official or any other contestant can challenge a call. And so one of the other guys in the arena, one of the other saddle bronc riders could look at and said, hey, he slapped that horse and throw the reviewed.
Right.
And, additionally, the replay official will be reviewing anything that's questionable and can bring it back. And so, with those new rules in place, I think that if the guys on the floor happen to miss something, then, the guy in the replay booth or the other contestants won't. And so I think that's important. And the whole goal of that is just to, it holds the officials at a higher level of accountability, and it ensures that the money goes to the right place, which is really our goal, and it's the officials' goal. I mean, these guys, I talk with them on a regular basis, and they really are trying to do their best, but they miss stuff. Sometimes mistakes happen, and so we try. I think with instant replay and modifying our rules, I think we'll remove some of that.
Okay.
So
the basic
kind of
level.
Excuse me. The moral of the story basically is, you can't avoid making mistakes once, but you should put things in place that keep them from happening again.
Right, and it's kind of levels the playing field out for everybody, because, like you say, you're gonna miss stuff here or there, see something there and there, but that camera's gonna catch it every time.
It should.
Now you guys just announced this, I guess this week or early last week.
Yeah.
The Women's World Championship. It's going to take place during the PBR Finals in Vegas. So how did that idea come to?
So, it's been said just recently. There's 51% of the demographic of rodeo fans or people who rodeo are women, and there's one discipline that's set aside for women. And so, we believe that early on. That's why we added breakaway. We were the first ones to pay equal money in breakaway. Jackie Crawford won $50,000 at Chicago. It's never been a question with us whether one event or another should have different pay. And so, team roping, heading, heeling, breakaway, it's all equal money, and that's just the way it's always going to be. But noticing, how much interest there is in women's rodeo, and how many of these ladies, did high school rodeo and did college rodeo, and then they just basically sold their horse, put their ropes up, quit it because there wasn't anywhere else for them to go. I think that this Women's Rodeo World Championship will help with that. I think that team roping has close to the same potential that breakaway roping has, if done right. Now, there's been all-girl team ropings and stuff, but again, when you talk about equal money or equal opportunity, it hasn't necessarily been there. And so we're going to do our best to try to we're going to learn a lot through this process, and we'll go through this first one, and we'll try to make it as good as we can, and we'll learn what we can learn over the course of this year, and then next year will be even better, and we'll continue to grow and improve. But the goal is with all of our missions that we're on is to make rodeo and make the industry bigger and stronger, and getting more people doing it is a huge part of that. And so I'm really excited about the Women's World Championship, and I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun for fans to watch, and a lot of fun for these ladies to do it. $750,000 guaranteed paid out, and it'll be held in conjunction with the PBR World Finals in Las Vegas. It'll be at the South Point Equestrian Center, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, will it be a televised event as well for the Women's World Championship?
Yeah, certainly on Ride Pass, and I believe there'll be some cable coverage as well. And beyond that, I wouldn't say at this point.
Now with it starting out, the Women's World Championship starting out with all timed events, is there any interest in possibly adding some ladies ranch bronc riding or some rough stock in the mix?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out, although that we're trying to focus on the things that at this point that we think are manageable and we're able to control and do a good job with. And so there's lots of, I mentioned the over 20,000 events in our database. There's lots of ones that include timed events. There's a really small amount of ladies ranch bronc riding or any other ladies rough stock. And so at this point, there isn't a lot of opportunity for them to qualify. And so, if that was to change in the future, then we wouldn't rule it out, but it's not, certainly not this year.
Okay. All right. Well, it sure sounds exciting. I mean, the WCRA's got a lot of stuff going on, and it seems like it's, every time something pops up, it's, bigger and better things are in the works, and sounds like you guys have got a handle on it. And I just look forward to seeing more stuff. I can't wait to check out this women's championship and see how that goes. And things are looking up.
Yes, sir. No, I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. We've got just a fantastic team of people who are really passionate about what we're doing and are excited about having the kind of basically the ability to be as creative and, think as big as they want. And so there's an office of people in here that just every day they're trying to work on, the things that we just talked about and working on future endeavors that are going to just, hopefully all of it just make it better for rodeo, its athletes and its fans.
All right, and it's getting there, and if you dig in there too far, you're going to find me in there. I signed up a couple of weeks ago. I'm getting my course ready to start nominating some stuff and see if I can't end up in one of these shows. But man, Bobby,
yes, sir.
I appreciate you visiting with me and filling me in on everything. And man, I just wish you all kinds of luck, and we'll see you down the road.
All right, thank you, Pepper. I appreciate it.
Thank you.